If you want to know why Makoto Shinkai's art is so freaking stunning, then stick around and watch this video until the end. If you're an anime fan or a digital artist, chances are you have already heard the name Makoto Shinkai. If you don't know him, here's a quick introduction. Makoto Shinkai is a Japanese animated filmmaker known for his work in the anime industry. He gained international recognition for his films such as Your Name, Weathering with You, and most recently, Suzume, which feature beautifully animated visuals and emotional storytelling. He is often praised for his ability to capture the essence of human connections and the power of nature in his works. But what makes his work memorable is how beautiful the background art in his films are. So in this video, I'm going to deep dive on what makes his background art beautiful and show you some of the techniques that I've noticed he uses the most to create breathtaking art. So stick around, let's get started. The first Makoto Shinkai film I watched was 5 centimeters per second. It's around 2013 when I first watched it. It's not that famous around the time compared to today, but it was, and it still is, my favorite among his other films. What makes it so captivating for me is how beautiful are the colors used in all the background art. It's important to note that Makoto Shinkai used real-life locations for most of the places in his films. Most of the colors were taken directly from the original photograph of the place, but it was his art direction that made it more appealing and harmonious to look at. His own approach on coloring his artwork by using color harmony and cinematography was evident throughout the film. Let's take a look at the shot where Takaki, who was the main protagonist of the film, was inside the train station. The colors used in this composition were all muted and can evoke a feeling of sadness. And that makes sense, right? Because this scene in the film was when Takaki was on his way to meet his childhood love. And the place was too far and he didn't know what could happen during his trip. So Makoto Shinkai effectively uses colors to effectively convey the feeling of the main character at the time. The reason why the color use was so effective was because they are in complete harmony with each other. The main colors used in the shot, which if we simplify, were green, blue, and brown. Now, if we use a color wheel, it's evident that these colors are within the triadic combination, and this creates a sense of continuity and it blends perfectly with each other. So, just a quick refresher, there are different color combinations in the color wheel, such as monochromatic, analogous, complementary, triad, split complementary, and tetradic. Basically, these color combinations are important in making a beautiful piece of art. So, if you're stuck on which color to combine, try using one of these combinations on your next painting. Here's another example. This image primarily uses a combination of complementary and analogous colors. It uses to blend all the colors in a pleasing and harmonious way. The use of colors in the shot was well organized in a way that it doesn't restrain the eye from looking at every object. It feels relaxing to look at since all colors are blending together and there seems to be no point to where your eye will stop exploring, and that's how they effectively use the colors here. One thing I observed in Makoto Shinkai's film was that he always used the color blue in almost all of his background art. It is something prominent in his works if you look closely. He uses it on his shadow and when hiding details from an object like this, and also when creating a sense of depth and separation. So yeah, that's another tip. Always add a splash of blue on your painting to make it look like Makoto Shinkai. Makoto Shinkai uses 3D in all of his works. His first film is actually a 30-second long 3D animated short film, which was inspired by the famous Japanese novelist Murakami Haruki. And computer-generated images isn't something that Shinkai shied away at using since it makes the production of his movies fast and efficient. In almost all of his films, he uses 3D to create the environments and the objects. He used 3D to create curtain, train, robot, cars, buildings, and use it as a reference for compositing a shot precisely. The buildings in most of his films are created using 3D software to make it realistic and close as possible to the actual real-life counterpart. But despite his use of 3D, it doesn't seem to be out of place and it doesn't feel weird. He knows how to seamlessly blend it with the overall scenery, and that's what makes it even more amazing. Looking closely at Shinkai's work is surely a feast for the eye. His tremendous attention to detail is so obvious in his works. His artwork always looks real, and sometimes it's even better than the real ones. And one of the reasons why this is the case is the way he adds details and texture to his environment art. Take a look at the shot. The car is beautifully painted and it looks real because of how he added details like the reflection of the metal A-frame at the back and the stripes on the reflector headlight. But if we try to remove that details just to see how it will look like, then we will have something like this, which I think is not bad, but Shinkai is all about the details, right? So this is obviously much better than this. Adding these tiny details adds to the realism of the scene, and that's what makes his painting so good. This kind of detail adds more texture to his painting, like in the shot, where he adds these tiny specks of highlights to mimic imperfection on the surface. And also, the distortion of the feet's reflection greatly emphasizes that this surface is actually wet. And this kind of texturing adds realism to a seemingly ordinary scene. Texture also helps to show that something is old, like in the shot, and can help make the object feel natural and authentic. Just like how the texture of the table creates a sense of glossiness. The texture in this table enhances our visual perception that this is actually made out of wood. In fact, it looks like a shiny wood since the reflection of the objects are clearly visible. Makoto Shinkai also likes to add a lot of objects into a specific scene to greatly enhance the personality of the characters. Here in the shot, there are a lot of objects in this scene, ranging from books to shoes, and he doesn't just add it for no reason. The way this shot was composed is to tell the audience that this character is interested in shoemaking. Like the books might be about shoes and all the other stuff are all related to creating shoes. So it's not something that was added for the sake of populating the scene with a lot of details. These objects are there because they are obviously should be there in the first place. Just like in the shot where there are a lot of things like cups, plates, paper clippings on the fridge, and utensils because obviously this is a kitchen and the typical kitchen has all these kind of things. Adding details doesn't make the scene perfect. Actually, Makoto Shinkai details the imperfection on his painting. Look at the road in this shot. Look at how detailed it is. The cracks, the paint, the texture, and the changes in color is so convincing and realistic. Those details are there because he wanted to show the imperfections of this road. You see, imperfections are what makes something realistic. As an audience, you can really feel and be convinced that it looks really like a road that you see in real life. Same thing at the store, you can see that there are stains of rust in the metal frame and it makes it even more familiar for us. These small but important details are what makes Makoto Shinkai's painting breathtaking and so realistic. And this is something that makes his work stand out among the rest. So if you want to make your painting to make it more like Makoto Shinkai's, add textures and details as needed by your composition, and also add imperfections to make it more perfect. Shadow has a big impact on making Shinkai's work more realistic. He uses it to create the form of each element in the scene. Typically in his earlier works, the color of the shadow played in between blue and purple. But this changes a lot from his latest movies. He still uses blue most of the time, but it is not as saturated compared to his previous works. He knows how light affects the color of the shadow, and it is evident from his latest work. But one thing he likes to do when painting his shadow is add a color transition in between the light and the shadow. Something like this. This technique is not just for stylized reasons, but it is based on reality. The transition of colors is called light fall-off, and it is basically a compression of light and shadow. Just a quick overview. When an object casts a shadow, it obstructs a portion of the light coming from the source. So the area of the shadow closest to the object receives the least amount of light. And the gradual light fall off at the shadow's edge occurs because some light rays are partially blocked by the object, and it causes a transition from the light to the shadowed area. I know it's a lot to process, but if you want to dig more into the principles of this technique, I highly recommend you watch this video from Marco Bucci explaining about light fall off. This guy is a legend, and I'm pretty sure you will learn a lot from him. Makoto Shinkai uses camera lens blur effect or depth of field to make his work cinematic and realistic. He uses it to create focus on the subject and to separate the foreground from the background. Using this technique can improve your composition, so use it accordingly, and it doesn't need to be added all the time, okay? Without any doubt, lighting is what Makoto Shinkai's work memorable. The way he uses light on his background art is breathtaking, and it looks more beautiful than the real-life counterpart. Of course, that's an overstatement, but that's how beautiful and realistic it is. It is impossible to summarize in a few words and to discuss in this short video how Makoto Shinkai creates realistic lighting. He obviously knows the fundamentals of how lighting works and how light interacts with other objects. But for the sake of this video, I'll try my best to show you his signature lighting technique. Makoto Shinkai likes to add this soft and hazy lighting to his painting. It is something he adds to emphasize where the light source is and to create a sense of realism into the scene. He also adds a glow effect to show the intensity of the light of an object, like in this example. And aside from glow and haze effect, he also uses volumetric lighting to enhance the mood of his background art. This is mostly present on windows, doors, and skies. Another thing he likes to add is lens flare. By adding this into his painting, it can introduce additional visual interest and complexity to the composition. The organic and unpredictable nature of lens flare adds a touch of realism and dynamic energy to the artwork, making it visually captivating and engaging. Also, he likes to add specular highlights on the surface of an object to enhance the texture and reflection. It is typically used to provide visual clues about the surface of the material. By using specular lighting, you can effectively show if the object's material is made out of plastic, wood, ceramic, or metal. Learning about Makoto Shinkai's technique also means learning the fundamentals and basic principles of art. Everything in this video is just an observation on how he does his painting. But in reality, these techniques are based on color theory, value, lighting, forms, perspective, and composition. It's the combination of these things that makes his work inspiring and breathtaking. If you want to learn more about these techniques, go and watch some of my videos so you can learn more about this. One last thing though before I end this video. I know I talk a lot about Makoto Shinkai's work, but he didn't do everything all by himself. Makoto Shinkai didn't do all of these beautiful background arts. Yes, he is a director and he has the final say, but let's take a moment to appreciate the talented background artists who work with him to make something profoundly beautiful. Thank you for watching this video. I've been gone quite a long time, but I'm back and hopefully I can continue to create more videos about art, animation, and yeah. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And see you again next time. Take care.